Hello one and all, and welcome to the 2023 Garrison Hill Invitational. This is powered by Runners Valley, and we are at Garrison Hill Park for a great race today. First off, let's see what happened last year at the Garrison Hill Invite 2022.
But the hills, they're pretty bad, but they were just short enough that you could just get them over with.
So there you just saw Lars Hogney dominating last year for the win, taking the lead on Powerline Hill. This year, he's back, so let's look at the favorites for this year. Of course, Lars being 2022 champion, but Dylan Abante is the record holder in the course. Can he challenge Lars this year? And of course, Clayton Johnson, who may go after the opening hill incentive. You win $15 to Runners Valley if you can break 40 in the opening hill. In regards to that is one of our keys to the race today. If you break 40 in the opening hill, Runners Valley gift card, that could bring some guys out. Also, the weather in today's course, much nicer than last year as you can see. And Powerline Hill, always tricky, hardest part of the course. That's where Lars won it last year. Can you do it again? So, looks like we're about ready to start. The guys are on the line. We got a great field here today. Lars Hogney, Robbie Ragazzo, Ethan Fiorenza, Clayton Johnson, Dylan Abante, and Jaron Norda. And there's the gun, and they're off. All right, and so they got this massive first hill to go up, about 150 meters or so, and about 125 feet of elevation gain. So who will go for that opening incentive? Of course, Clayton Johnson, one of the favorites to go for it, and he is out hard. You got to win up to the hill if you want that $15, and look at Clayton go. Pumping the arms. He looks like he's in a time lapse. This is crazy. And geez, 28 seconds, top of the hill. Clayton will easily win it. It's a great run. So he's got that in the bag. Already up by, gosh, it's got to be at least 15 seconds in these guys. And it looks like Fiorenza is now in second with a pack in third. Bonte is definitely trying to break through there to get into the lead. And let's see what's happening up in the woods. Boy, what a great start. This is definitely what the race director planned, having the race go out hard like this. And Johnson celebrating in the woods. Yeah, he got that $15. All right, over the log. And Dylan Labonte is already starting his chase. So it seems like it's going to be a similar strategy to last year, where Labonte went to the front and didn't let it up until about Powerline Hill. And Lars Hogney, as he did last year, is hanging in the back. There's a shot of the downhill. Should see them coming down here in a few minutes. So we're doing an opening loop to start. It's going to be 0.4 miles. Goes up the opening hill and then around the top of the course. Kind of along the tree line here, as you can see. Got some fans anxiously running across the course to see their favorite runners. And Dylan Abante. He looks strong. Looking pretty good right now. And that's a massive gap. There's the pack Fiorenza. Johnson looks pretty tired from his opening hill. Yeah, so the pack's caught him. He might pay for that, and that's going to be detrimental to Dover's chances in the race today. But Hogney now, this is a bit interesting because last year he didn't move into second place until about the mile mark, and Labonte already has a massive gap. Yeah, that's a huge gap on the field right there. So he's coming down on the downhill now. I mean, this race is off pretty quickly, and Hogney has already gotten a gap into second place. So it looks like it's going to be a repeat of last year, folks. 1-2, Dylan Labonte and Lars Hogney. There's the Dover boys marking up in third and fourth, Norda and Ragazzo. And yeah, they're heading up to the downhill, and we're going to see them come flying up this hill. Of course, the question is, you have to think about is, you've got all this energy at the start of the race. How do you use it? Do you go for it in the opening hill and try to get a gap, which is clearly what Labonte is doing? Or do you hang back like Hogney did last year and is clearly doing at the start of the race this year? I mean, he went out in sixth of 6 guys today. So who is going to have the better strategy, it looks like, as we're awaiting them to come around the course. Got a somewhat technical descent down to the bottom. And yep, here we go. So Labonte did have a gap, and I don't see that changing at all. Of course, this is always going to be a tough hill, and it's interesting because at the start of the race, everyone's flying up, they're ready to go. And once you're here for the second time, you're about a half mile into the race now, and it's starting to burn. So they're going to be coming up this hill about 800 in, and then heading up to the K, which is just at the end of the upper woods. But Labonte looks good, and honestly, this might be a bigger gap than he had last year. There were questions regarding his health coming into the race, as Hogney, man, that's a big gap to third. So yeah, I mean, last year at this point, he was in third at the K. That's where he moved into second, but already by the second hill, he is way out in second place, chasing down Labonte. And it looks like Ethan Fiorenza now has gapped his teammate Johnson. That's one thing that Dover may have over the rest of the pack, is that they do have a team pack. As Johnson is in fourth, though. Norda looking strong in fifth. Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be looking pretty strong right now, as Regazzo is coming up in sixth. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you'll see guys start to run at points during the race, but here's Labonte at the K, and he's going to come through about 4:43. Keep in mind, record pace, 28:05 for the record. That's about 5:36 per K, so he's about a minute up on the record pace right now, as Hogan's coming through around 4:50 mid to 4:56. So he's 13 seconds back. That is about what he was back at the K last year, as we see Labonte coming up Devil's Bump right now, heading back to the park. This is the highest point in the course. And there's Fiorenza. So about 5:15 at the K. He's going to lead Dover, as he's actually put a gap on Johnson. Clearly that opening hill tired Clayton Johnson out, but he's still in fourth place. So he's coming through at about 5:29. Norda, 5:33 at the K. So we see Labonte and Hogney. Yeah, that's a pretty big gap. And so I think Labonte's strategy is to try to drop Hogney while he can. So Regazzo's coming through, 5:48 at the K. Yeah, I mean, Labonte must just be trying to get as big of a lead as he can and hope that Lars just waits, and waits too long to catch him as Fiorenza goes by there. There's Johnson. It looks like Norda's on his back now, as they're going to head around the outside of the park. Yeah, I know, God, Clayton Johnson's already walking. Yeah, you can tell that first hill took a toll on him, as Norda's going to make a move past him right here. So we'll see on the descent, because oftentimes on a course like this, descending can be just as important as ascending. As Labonte goes by there, he's done his first loop around, heading down towards the mile mark. Of course, the mile mark is at the bottom of the hill by the starting line, as Hogney's coming through. Yeah, and he's not terribly far back. He's definitely far back, but it's to a point where he can definitely make a hard move and be right there, as Bonte goes by the camera there. This is just above the starting line. They're going to make their loop around on the snowboard hill as they head down that. Of course, thinking about last year, it was covered in snow. And that's really where it got interesting, because guys ended up making up a lot of ground because some people were timid on the hills and didn't want to, risk it all going downhill in the snow and ice. Other guys decided to go for it, and that's where they made up ground. As Ethan Fiorenza, I mean, he's looking strong. And he's put on a gap, and he is well in third right now. I mean, I don't think he's going to be up with Labonte and Hogney anytime soon, but he's definitely put a gap and ensured that he's going to be in that bronze medal position. If we look down the hill, and you can see Labonte is going to start making his way up as Fiorenza passes by. There's Norda and Johnson, so they're staying together. So Norda made the pass on Johnson, but Johnson's not letting go. As Dylan Labonte This is where it starts to get tough. Is your third time up the hill, and of course it is basically, if you think about it, the halfway point of the hills. You do this hill 5 times and Powerline Hill once. And of course, they all do say that Powerline Hill is the worst part of the course. But if it's essentially 6 hills, this is his third time up. You're through this, you're about halfway, and we're still very early on. We're not even at 2K yet. So yeah, I mean, he's looking strong. As there's Hogney. He looks close, but on these hills, it's a mighty long ways. But honestly, he is not far back. So he must have taken that descent pretty hard, or the uphill pretty hard. Because that's probably going to be about a 7-second gap. As they're coming up on 2K through the woods here. And yeah, they are well and away in first and second. This is kind of the waiting game here now. As Fiorenzo looks to making his way up. And that's a big move for him, because usually you might see him and Clayton Johnson together at this point in the race. But Clayton went for that opening incentive and got it, and now Fiorenzo's on his own. But Dylan, he's putting in a mighty hard move. He's trying to go for it. But there's Lars stalking him as always. This is playing out just like last year. If I do recall, it was on the 4th hill that Hogney made the move, and you can see Ethan going by there. He had a huge gap. And there's Dylan going up Devil's Bump. Yeah, I mean, he looks strong. He hasn't run in about 3 weeks or so. That's the reports coming in. But yeah, he's looking like he's ready to go. But Hogney slowly and surely is making up that gap. But if I'm Dylan on this kind of stretch, it opens up. And he has hit himself. He is not the best hill climber. Hogney is definitely the king of the hills. I would open up here on this park loop and try to get away, as Nord is now trying to get away from Johnson. The gap is bigger than it was last time, so Johnson was able to hang around on the flat section. Being a mid-D guy, that's big for him. But Norda on the downhill and uphill has made up a little bit of a gap. As we see Ethan. At this point, the woods are about a minute long. That's where you can really open up. Of course, we see our 2K splits. Appears that Labonte has about 8 seconds on Hogney, with Fiorenzo about a minute back of that lead pack. As Ethan's making his way up the bump into the park. And this is their second time at the bump. After this, they're heading all the way down to the road loop. So you got, for the leaders, you got one more time up the main hill, and then it's all the way down and all the way up Powerline Hill. And that's where it's really going to be a race. As we see Norda, he put on a move in the upper woods. So he's trying to get going now. He came through at 11:15. He's 45 seconds back of Fiorenzo. That's hard to make up over the last 3K. But he put on 13 seconds on Clayton, who seems to be laughing and smiling at the camera. So, don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it appears Dylan passed, and then Lars is still just chasing him down. And this is what you do if you're Lars. He knows that when it comes to Powerline Hill, that's where he's going to shine. So if he's even within striking distance, that's where, that's going to be his advantage. Nord is making his way around the field. And, Johnson, he held on around the field last time. We'll see if he can make up some ground here. As he looks pretty strong. It could be a strategy for him. You went hard to get that cash prize. That's great. Now, relax a little bit. And once you get your legs feeling good again, around this kind of flatter loop section, you can really go for it. And Regazzo's coming through now. So he's going to be the scorer for Dover, as they're going to come through with 14 points right here and take the team lead. So that's big for them. Regazzo's going to be their anchor today. He's going to be about a minute back of Clayton. And we'll see how Dover does team-wise. As here's the battle coming up. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So we see them go back to the road loop. And yeah, Lars is right there. Oh boy. See, I think Labonte has to be nervous at this point because Hogney has slowly made that gap up. It was a pretty large gap at the start of this race. As Lars is just right in his back. And Dylan was running as fast as Lars was walking there. So that's definitely going to be concerning. As there's Regatta making his way around. And everyone still looks pretty good. There's certainly people like Lars Hogney who look better than others do. But there's no reason why anybody should be not ready to go attack these last few hills. As we're approaching 3K now. 3K now for the leaders. As that should be Jaron Norda heading down, yep. And there's Dylan Labonte. So he's 14:02 at 3K. Lars Hogney 14:05. If I'm correct, Labonte did put on a small gap along that little stretch there. So now they got the descent, and that's really where Labonte can shine. So if he can find something down this hill, and then all the way around the road loop, he could be in a good spot. You just got to keep the pressure on and make sure that Hogney gets gapped. If you can make a small gap, that's hard to make up. Even for a guy like Hogney on Powerline Hill, that's hard to make up. Because you got to really think to yourself, I got to catch this guy and make a move. And making a move is the hardest thing to do in this kind of course when it's so steep and so long. And that looks like Ethan making his way up. So once again, he's solidly in third. I mean, there's no one else you can see. But of course, he is definitely not going to be fighting for a top 2 spot because those guys are definitely way out in front. It's definitely an impressive run for Labonte, his first run in a couple weeks. As we now see, this is where it's really going to happen. Does Labonte have a lead still? And how big is it? So, yep, he's still in front. Yeah, he's got to go here. Just past the 2 mile. And new this year is that grass section. It's going to be a lot nicer for these guys running across. I mean, he looks good. He got dragonflies on. That could be tough on the pavement, but Hogney looks so smooth. So I think we're going to see some fireworks in Powerline Hill as Fiorenza is now at the 3K. He's through in 15:51. And Norda still has that small gap on Clayton Johnson, but Clayton's not gone away yet. As there's Ethan making his way down the carriage road towards the 2 mile. He looks solid. And yeah, he's not been catching the front group, but he's definitely been pulling away from Johnson and Norda. And that's, I think it's an interesting play from Dover because they had Johnson going for that cash prize at the start. And now Fiorenza is really having a great race for himself, just, going after it solidly in third and not worrying about, anything else, just going to score as few points as he can. He's not messing around. So he looks pretty good. And he's also on pace for that course record. I mean, if you can hold, he's averaged so far, 5:14 or so for his miles as Nora's coming through, or for his Ks at least. I mean, that's definitely good enough to go under that previous course record as Clayton Johnson's coming through now, 17:07 at 3K. Yeah, I mean, with a course record of 28:05, and these guys are coming through with just 2K to go, 17:07 even for Johnson, he can go after that course record. Of course, he's not going to win today, so it won't be a course record, but still, I mean, having that in your name, ahead of those who've come before you, it's pretty impressive. And here we go. This is the race right here. If I'm correct, that looks like Lars Hogney in front. So Hogney made the move. And last year, he put 12 seconds on Dylan Labonte here. Said his strategy was to walk Powerline Hill. He's running it still. And Labonte is the one walking this year. Wow. Big move by Hogney. Yeah, this is appears to be a race-breaking move. As Labonte's just hunched over and Hogany's powering his way up. And yeah, that's why he's the 2022 champion. And he's gapped this field. Coming through right here, he's at 4K, 18:18. He's got to run a 9:50 last K to break the course record. He's going to smash this course record. As Labonte, he's still running a great time. It appears that he expended himself in the earlier parts of the course, which he had to do. So he's not going to win today. I'm going to confidently say Hogany's going to win today. But Labonte, he looks good still. I mean, tired, of course, but he's in a great spot. And even Hogany, as he's winning this race and pulling away, he's still walking, and you can see he's really feeling... Oh, but he looks smooth right there, though. Yeah, he looks ready to go. He's just crunching down in the end of this course as Labonte's going to start on that Devil's Bump. And yeah, this is the last time up the bump and definitely the hardest. Just after 4K. Yeah, Labonte, he needs to stay within himself because he can still put up a great time here as we see Norda and Johnson coming through along the road. They've passed the 2 mile. And Johnson made up a gap there, so Norda's got to watch out. That could be a really great race for 4th place. And there's Regazzo coming through. He's got the 3K. Yeah, here's Robbie coming down. So he's hanging in there. He's the 3rd guy for Dover. He's going to bring their team score home. If he can make it the last 2K, Dover's going to win this race. So he is the all-important 3rd scorer for the team. And back on Powerline Hill, speaking of Dover's team, here's their leader right now, Ethan Fiorenza. He's been running solo this entire race. He was with the pack for about the first 500 meters and then just pulled away. And he looks great. Of course, you can never look great in Powerline Hill, but he looks like he's, powering ahead, feeling strong, and he's going to finish 3rd today. That's going to be a great bronze medal finish for him. And I think it's kind of hard in this kind of race because you do have guys like Hogany and Labonte. Those two, the top 2 last year, they're coming back. They're the hill runners. They know what to do in this course. And Fiorenza's coming in saying, hey, I want to make a name of my own. And he's doing it right here. And he looks great. And now we're going to get our shot of the final hill. So we still have Johnson and Norda battling it out, probably getting towards Powerline Hill at this point. So that'll be a great race. But we're going to see Hogany making his way up here. And he's looking at a great time right now. In 18:18, when you hit the 4K is incredible. I mean, he's probably on pace to run around 24 minutes. And now there's Johnson walking it in. And yeah, Norda looks pretty good. So Norda's put on a bit of a gap. Yeah, I think Johnson was not a fan of those hills. The pavement hills, they're not as hard as these ones, but they're definitely tricky still. As Norda looks great, actually. Yeah, he's put a gap on Johnson. He's going for that 4th place finish. And these guys are going to be fighting to not get lapped by Hogany, who was absolutely flying today. As Norda now starting to power lock a little bit, and that's honestly a great strategy. I mean, on this hill, it hits 42% grade, which is just absurd. So, the strategies you take, are you going to try to run the entire thing? You could be exhausting yourself. And Norda, I mean, he's probably running as well as he can right here. I mean, he's put a massive gap on Clayton. They were together at the bottom of the road. He's flown up this hill. And there's Johnson working his way up. So he's got to stay in the fight for the team race. As we see Regazzo coming through. He's at the road now. So he's hanging in there. And there's Johnson. And Dover needs Johnson and Regazzo to pick it up and finish it in so they can win this team race. Johnson's still fighting. Yeah, I mean, there he goes. He's reached Powerline Hill as we see Lars Hogney coming around the corner. Just as Clayton Johnson was around the bend, there's Lars, and he is full of running right now. Yeah, he's looking great. Of course, this is definitely his kind of racing right here, as he's going to round these final few corners and coast his way to a victory. Labonte is nowhere in sight. So for 2 years in a row, it's going to be Lars Hogney with the championship at the Garrison Hill Invitational. Last year, controversy. This year, none. He's run the full course this time. And he looks great. Yeah, and being a hill runner, Hogney is definitely at home here. Going to round this final bend. He's looking at sub 24. He's got to go. This would be an incredible time. This is going to be 4 minutes faster than the course record. Oh, go. Come on, get in. Oh, he's starting to celebrate. Well, a great finish for him. 24 flat. That is absolutely incredible. Very impressive finish for him. As there's Labonte. He's going to smash his course record. He won't own it anymore. But still, I think he's going to be very proud of his performance today. First run back in 3 weeks. Yeah, he killed it today. He went for the win. It didn't play out, but he made it a race. And he's the reason why they just smashed this course record. So he's coming through right here. 24-29. That's a great run. Very respectable. Yeah, these guys, they're pretty out of it. they gave it their all. And of course, this is the kind of day where you really can just go for it. And last year, the weather just made it impossible to really put up a good time or try to even race this. All the guys had to just be so careful. But today, I mean, the course is just, it's perfect. As here's the hill. We should see Fiorenza pretty soon coming up on this final loop around. He's run a great race today. I mean, he went out with the pack, and then when people started to tire out, he just kept staying steady. Didn't take the bait by going with Hogney and Labonte. He just hung back and went for it by himself, and I think that was just Norda passing by on the descent there, and there's Johnson. So, yeah, he put on a big gap. He's looking pretty good. So let's see how the race is playing out between Norda and Johnson. It seemed like by their shadows they were a bit closer on the descent. So we'll see if Johnson has that finishing kick that Norda may not have as strong as he will. So if it comes down to a sprint, I would take Johnson. But those hills have been killing Clayton all day, and he went for it at the start. He does have the fastest hill time, but at this point, he may be out of it. So we'll see what happens between those two. And of course, we still got to see Fiorenza finishing up as well. But it should be a great race to the finish line. And regardless, Dover's in a great spot for the team win. Last I checked, they had 14 points, and that was good enough to take the title. And that was at 3K with Regazzo coming through. So we'll see Ethan right here, rounding the final few bends, entering the park, and yeah, he is all alone, going to win that bronze medal today. Yeah, Ethan's looking smooth. So there he goes along the stretch. Going to make 3 turns, and he'll be at the finish line. Got through this brutal course today. He's going to be our 3rd place finisher and looking to lead Dover to a team title today. And yeah, I mean, he's going to probably break the course record. I mean, 28:05 previously. This is still going to be a great run. Yeah, here, final bend, coming around. He's looking at 27 low. Nice. 27:19 for Ethan. That's a great run. Now we got to turn attention back to the race between Norda and Johnson. I believe are pretty close. Yeah, it could come down to the final few hundred meters here between Jaron Norda and Clayton Johnson. As they're working up the hill now. Yeah, so Clayton was very far back at Powerline Hill. Jaron put a huge move on him, and Clayton seemed to be broken, but he's come back pretty strong. And we'll see how this plays out over the end. Who's going to go for it? They're both together. Wow, Jaren's trying to hang on. Clayton's walking up this hill. Jaren's running it. Now Clayton sees him behind him and goes for it. And he's got a gap. So he made up a lot of ground over that last 800 meters or so. And Jaren's still running. Can he make a move in the woods and go for it and try to get this 4th place finish? We'll see what happens. And also, Regazzo should be coming up Powerline Hill pretty soon, making his way around. As now we anxiously await at the summit. And Clayton's coming through. And Jaren. So yeah, Clayton did have a gap. Yeah, that was actually a pretty big move over that last K, because Jaren was up at that last K, and we gotta check this. Jaren was up by 27 seconds at the 4K, and Clayton's come back, and he's gonna take 4th place here with a big move and a big sprint finish. And there's the airplane, bit of a Kipchoge style celebration there for Clayton Johnson. And Jaren Norda looks strong too. I mean, he's having a great finish. Yeah, he looks great. So there you go. Jaren Norda and Clayton Johnson back and forth this entire race. Now we're going to see where Robbie Regazzo finishes. We just need him to finish up, and Dover should have this team title. Here's Lars Hogney with the win. All right, we're here with Lars Hogney. How was the race today?
Better than last year, you know.
Yeah. How are the conditions helpful for your time today?
They were dry rather than snow and ice, so that was good. Good temp out. Yeah.
So we saw Dylan Labonte had, like last year, a large lead at 2K, and then you started closing it in. What was your kind of your strategy there to kind of bring him back?
My strategy was to not pass him until Powerline Hill.
That's what happened.
Yeah, and then use Powerline Hill because that's my strength. So
cool.
I don't know.
Any shout-outs?
Shout out Dylan Labonte for breaking the wind for about a lap. That was nice. Shout out Tyler Sheedy for putting on this event.
I wouldn't call it spectacular, but. All right, thanks, Lars. As here comes Robbie, working up the last hill. Now we've just got the final stretch through the woods, and he'll be there. All right, here we go. Making his way through the woods and up towards the finish line. This is about the 3-mile mark. He's got one final kick, and Dover will have this team title in the bag. And he's hung tough all race, run by himself, and kept pushing. He's going to bring it home for his team. He's now entering the park for the last time. Coming through the trees. Just has that last perimeter loop to go. Or I guess interior loop, you might look at it in a way. Now it's just that straight stretch to those 3 right or left turns. Right angle left turns. As going around the playground now. So yeah, Dover had their 3rd and 4th finisher, and here's Robbie just going to clinch up 6 for them. Now it's going to be a total of 13 points after Johnson made that move over Norda to take 4th place. Really just kudos to all these runners. I mean, this is such a challenging course. As there's Robbie making his final way around. And yeah, everyone fought through today and really just made an excellent race. He's going to dig for the line right here. Last few steps. He's got it. So 35-22. So here are the results. Dover with a team title, 13 points. No one else was able to score. And Lars Hogney defends his title, takes a new course record, 24 minutes over Dylan Abante and Ethan Fiorenza. All right, thank you for watching. This is the Garrison Hill Invite.